take it away from there.
All right, Brian Thompson, you are up.
Thank you very much. I'm a member of the Monmouth Beach Environmental Commission, and let me just turn one thing down there. Hold on a second here, because I've got two things going. So, sorry about that. Tech is something else, isn't it? All right, there we go. Some points I'd like to make here is that we've had 37 years of education with clean communities and other programs to the rate of $24 million a year, and yet we're still right here, right now, debating all of the litter, the trash, whatever we find. Supermarkets deal with food all the time, coming in, going out, waste. Of course, you're going to have pests. 5 cents in 1980, when we're talking about incentives, is worth roughly a penny today. So, of course, we're going to see waning collection rates in DRS states. Supermarkets say they're committed to sustainability, but all you have to do is walk down the aisles and see packages of 2 or 3 items all wrapped together in plastic, and the item itself is in plastic. And where is the sustainability in that? Why can't I just take 2 items separately and get the break of 2 for 1, or whatever the break is going to be? This is not a tax, it's a fee. It's a tax on people who may not return their bottles, but that's better than me having to pay as a taxpayer for my neighbor who gets, like 2 cases of plastic bottles twice a week. I've got to pay for his disposal when I hardly ever use any plastic bottles, or as few as I possibly can with the choices that we're faced with. So the tax is really on me, who's not using these bottles, as opposed to saying, oh, everybody's going to pay the tax on this. That's not right. It's a fee. We've talked, and John made a great case about lower tipping fees, less collection runs. I talked to our DPW director. He figures that it's going to save my town of Monmouth Beach about $9,000 a year in fewer truck runs out to the Mazza facility, less wear and tear on the trucks, smaller tipping fees, et cetera, et cetera. I think that if we have a good, strong environmental justice program with especially food deserts, that you're going to see the unredeemed deposit money can go into, for example, reverse vending machines, into collection centers, redemption centers in these areas, to make it easier for people who are indeed environmentally impacted simply by the waste. All you have to do is drive into Newark, and you can see at the entrance off of, I believe it's 280 or one of the highways in, waste just piling up that's not collected, even though they may get a lot of money from the fee. The idea that nips and bottles would not be collected in the suburbs does miss the majority of people who live in cities and close-in burbs like Maplewood. Many of us remember the fond old days when we would indeed get money back for taking a bottle in. Fraud
Thank
can
you,
work
Brian.
several ways. And
Sorry,
my
you're
time
3
is
minutes.
up, right?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Rachel Granson, you're next.
Hi, thank you. So good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to comment on the impact of the deposit legislation on New Jersey's existing recycling infrastructure and its impact on Burlington County's regional recycling program. My name is Rachel Granston. I'm with Burlington County. I'm the Assistant Recycling Coordinator here, as well as the Clean Communities Coordinator and Hazardous Waste Coordinator. Burlington County's regional program is one of the oldest in the state, beginning in 1982. We service all 40 of our towns, including over 150,000 single-family homes, as well as 30,000 multifamily units and most of our schools. Our program is a partnership between the Burlington County and the Occupational Training Center. For abbreviation purposes, it's OTC, we refer them to. And the OTC's mission is to provide jobs to individuals with disabilities. OTC operates our collection program and single-stream materials recovery facility. Our program would be severely impacted by a DRS system. First, there would be negligible savings for the curbside collection program. We send out 23 trucks each day. Our fleet covers around 1,500 miles and services 15,000 homes per day. With DRS, trucks must still drive down each street to collect all the non-deposit recyclables. Under a DRS system, our program will likely lose 65% of our highest value recyclables. Based on our 2023 revenues, we could lose approximately $1 million per year in revenues, if not more. This is a 25% drop in the funds needed to operate our program. Our plant residue is less than 12%, due in large part to our educational outreach. If the $3 recycling tax disappears, we also lose over $300,000 in county recycling grants, which has been essential to providing comprehensive recycling education to our residents. In short, a bottle bill is bad for recycling in Burlington County, New Jersey. That being said, in 2023, I think it's good to note that we recycled approximately 41,000 tons, saving our municipalities $3,889,282. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Rebecca, you're up next.
Hi, thank you. I'm Rebecca Tarragon. I'm from Atlantic County. I'm the recycling coordinator and the Clean Communities coordinator. And I would like to reiterate pretty much everything Rachel said. We run a similar program. We do collections for almost all of our 23 municipalities. And this proposal would destroy our program for the reasons that she mentioned. And I just would like to say that most importantly, there's no need for this type of legislation. As you heard from many people, including the DEP, who are the official source of this data, our recycling numbers on containers are already very strong, stronger than many of the bottle bill states. And container litter is a very small percentage of all litter. So there really is no benefit to this legislation, but there is a lot of negative consequences. It would destroy our current infrastructure, which is very strong, and it would take away essential funds for recycling and litter programs. You know, I spend all day, every day, working on recycling and litter abatement. And I'm one of hundreds of people in New Jersey who this is their all day, everyday job. And you would be taking away our funding for that. And this proposal that maybe we could get some of it back through the unclaimed deposit tax, I think that's really disingenuous because there is no guarantee that it would go to the same sources. And that money would be inconsistent year to year, which makes it impossible to build a strong program. And I think importantly, it's contingent on the program failing, because the more unclaimed deposits you have, the more money you get back. And I think any policy that incentivizes failure is not a good idea. And just one more point, I think it would be really a problem, an inconvenience, and unfair to our residents. As anyone in the recycling industry knows, recycling is about convenience. People do not want to go out of their way to recycle. Maybe the people on this call will, but the majority of residents do not. And so if you make it more inconvenient for them to recycle, that's really prohibitive, and a lot of people are not going to do it. And a lot of people do not have the means to drive to deposit centers and deliver all these bags. You know, Atlantic City is in my county. They're a food desert. They do not have a grocery store within an easy distance. A lot of them take the bus. I see them every day when I drive past the grocery store in the next town. They've got bags already. They cannot bring a bunch of other bags for deposits. And what if the machine is broken? They just have to leave them there because they can't bring them back with their grocery bags. It would be a really unfair burden on those communities. And I think it would be unfair for our residents. And I really don't see any benefit that would outweigh these negative consequences. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Up next, Mike Halfacker.
Can you hear me? No?
Yes.
Oh, it says my mic is still off. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Michael Halfaker. I'm the executive director of the Beer Wholesalers Association of New Jersey. We represent the 10 largest beer wholesalers in the state, and the members of the Beer Wholesalers Association delivers roughly 97% of all beer sold at retail in the state of New Jersey. We are very much interested in this topic, and I've spent the entire day sitting through all these presentations. I want to thank Cindy, who I haven't seen in a long time. Nice to see you, Cindy, and everyone else who has facilitated this. Someone very early this morning, one of the first panelists said that the devil is in the details. And I think that's absolutely right when we're talking about bottle bills, because there's a lot of different versions of bottle bills enacted across the country, but almost all of them, the economic burden falls on distributors of beverages, whether that's Pepsi, Coke, or Anheuser-Busch or Miller Coors, or any other beer distributor. One thing I would note today, we can't even find common ground on the statistics we're all using, much less on how to move forward, if we move forward at all, on a bottle bill. New Jersey has spent 37 years obtaining very high compliance with its curbside recycling program, and now we're going to introduce this wrinkle to it, or we're talking about introducing this wrinkle to it. It's going to take another 37 years to get people to adapt to that. I think it's, in light of the costs, it's very much a wasted effort. Beverage distributors in almost every state that has adopted bottle bills, and by the way, I'm just going to, as an aside, pardon my snark, but if this were such a wonderful idea, wouldn't at least one other state have adopted something in the past 40 years? And I mean, New Jersey is not that much smarter or more brilliant than all these other states that have declined to adopt bottle bills. But beverage distributors almost always bear the cost of collection, sorting, and processing the returned containers. This requires the wholesalers and distributors to incur additional infrastructure costs, pay for the designated collection facilities, add trucks, add a tracking system to manage deposits and refunds. And these overhead costs are not going to be recouped by the small percentage that's usually attached for administrative costs or the unredeemed surplus. By the way, I think I've heard 5 different places that unredeemed surplus has been promised to today. So we certainly have to figure that out. You have to understand, someone made a mention earlier that, oh, the trucks are already making these deliveries anyway. Distributor trucks are one-way deliveries. They are not designed to drop off cases of beer and then pick up empties and return them. That's a whole different type of business. And we know this for a fact and how costly this is, because during the pandemic, beer distributors had to collect thousands and thousands and thousands, millions of dollars of beer that went bad during the shutdowns. And
Mike.
we're not, oh,
Sorry,
okay.
you're out of time.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Tim Wheelahan.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank everybody for this opportunity. You guys had a heck of a presentation today. By introduction, I'm Timothy Wheelahan, the General Manager of the Robert Shin Reed Jr. Recycling Center in Burlington County, which operates as part of a nonprofit OTC services. For more than 4 decades, we have partnered with Burlington County to address their recycling requirements. As a nonprofit organization, our mission is to create opportunities that foster the growth of individuals with disabilities. Over the years, this program has positively impacted the lives of hundreds of people. However, with the recent proposal of a bottle bill would threaten to constrain our resources, jeopardizing our ability to support people with disabilities in the county and in the state of New Jersey. So at this point, I would be strongly opposed to a bottle bill that's for what we do here as a nonprofit, servicing the county, servicing people with disabilities that otherwise would not have an opportunity for employment, would be very hard for us to absorb the cost if we lose 25% of our revenue due to the removal of the PET and the aluminum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Next up, Louis.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yep. I'm Lou Dubuque, and I'm here today speaking on behalf of the New Jersey chapter of the National Waste and Recycling Association. The NWRA New Jersey chapter is categorically opposed to any bottle bill legislative proposal currently being contemplated by the New Jersey Plastics Advisory Council. New Jersey currently has robust and efficient recycling infrastructure to collect, process, and market recyclables for reuse. The environmental research company Eunomia has listed New Jersey as one of the top 10 states with the highest recycling rate for containers and packaging materials in the country. According to the Association of New Jersey Recyclers, the state recycles over 75% of all plastic, glass, steel, and aluminum containers generated in the state. This meets or exceeds the container recycling rates for all but 3 bottle bill states. Further, NWRA can attest to the fact that the state has a robust and efficient hauler infrastructure to collect MSW and recyclables. The NWRA New Jersey chapter believes that if a bottle bill law were to be implemented, it would present an economic and disruptive burden to both recycling markets and local taxpayers. It would require consumers to transport and deposit their beverage containers currently recycled throughout the single-stream curbside recycling at collection facilities instead, and remove up to 50% of plastics and aluminums from existing recycling streams. Removing these types of materials from existing recycling streams will remove valuable commodities and increase recycling costs for other materials that customers and municipalities currently recycle. New Jersey residents will pay for 2 recycling systems, a per container fee under the bottle bill system, and a residential curbside or drop-off service for recycling. They will also be directly impacted by additional costs of up to 10 cents upfront container deposit and hidden fees relayed via higher cost of groceries as producers pass along their handling costs. Our members recognize and applaud New Jersey in particular for its long-standing role as a leader in sustainability solutions. We strongly support the work of the state of New Jersey has done in regard to its new recycled content law. We are also similarly committed to supporting the development of safe, economically sustainable, and environmentally responsible recycling programs benefiting communities throughout the Garden State. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Lou. Next up, we have Amy Goldsmith.
Hi there. My name is Amy Goldsmith. I'm with Clean Water Action. I'm the New Jersey State Director with over 40 years of experience working on solid waste, whether it's recycling, incineration, or other issues. Recycling was revolutionary 40 years ago. People thought no one would ever do it, but they do. Republicans and Democrats alike all say and are very proud that they recycle in some way. But now given our plastics and climate crisis, we need to make a new paradigm shift to create a new normal to reduce packaging, toxics, fossil fuel use for single-use disposables, and move to reusables and refillables, and make producers more responsible, take back, reuse, and refill. Towns spend money on litter, clearing storm drains and sewers. They pay disposal costs. They pay for recycling. These are real costs, as John Weber and others have spoken to. And they're also avoided costs if, in fact, we were collecting them in a different way. My town of Red Bank has garbage trucks going down my street 3 times a week. 1 for mixed recyclables, single stream, and 2 for trash. And I would agree that most of the stuff that goes in the recycling truck, to be honest, is probably contaminated and probably trashed or has poor markets. We need to design policies that help fund the programs at the local and state level with unclaimed deposits and other programs. And we also need to, we know that recycling and beverage returnable deposit program are compatible. In my household, we bought an electric car, but we didn't throw away our gas car. We didn't throw away our investment. We assigned different uses for different vehicles, different infrastructures. Bottle deposit, recycling are the same in the sense that they are different, but they're compatible and they serve our communities well. Maybe the industry has to adapt to a new future, just as we and our families and our towns need to adapt. And also, we need to be mindful of our communities that are already overburdened with incineration, scrap yards, and other things. We should be starving the burner. We should not be putting things in our landfill. And certainly, we should be making sure that we conserve all of our resources and use less fossil fuel to do it, which means less plastic in our packaging, and less packaging is better for the environment and also better for the bottom line for businesses as well as for our towns and our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next up, we have Mark Savastano.
Hi, thank you. My name is Mark Savastano. I'm an active member of the public here in Allendale, proponent of sustainability, member of the Allendale Green Team and Sustainable Jersey's Bergen Hub. This has been a very informative and exceptional presentation. I want to make a statement that the arguments against the bottle bill, quoting roaches and rats and opioid addicts, are not helpful to this discussion at all. They're just scare tactics that don't help to achieve a goal of having a good discussion about this issue. I'm not sure how I feel about a bottle bill yet, but no matter how you feel about it, the high compliance and successful are not adjectives that I would use to describe New Jersey's recycling programs as they now exist. They're widely disparate in their requirements. They do not achieve litter reduction and absolutely do not achieve the goal of increasing recycling. I've seen recycling trucks in my neighborhood stop and pick up the mixed recyclables and dump the cardboard into the same vehicle, and then refuse to answer questions as to what the ultimate destination of those recyclables were and what happened to them when they were delivered to wherever they're being delivered. The dubious recycling rates of 70+% are not measuring recycling, they're measuring collection. And that doesn't translate into public knowledge of what is actually being recycled. And they cannot quote anything that's statistically accurate as to the amount of recycling that's being accomplished. And that's by law and by design. I would push back against the repeated statements of indirect taxes on consumers that this bill would impose, because that ignores the very real direct cost of garbage and litter collection, and also the indirect cost of pollution, landfills, and shipping these materials overseas, where it ultimately becomes trash in the ocean or is burned in open pits. Knowing the ultimate disposition of the materials that's collected is the key to truly defining recycling rates. Right now, we're just subsidizing the solid waste industry, not recycling. Whatever benefits are going to the town can be achieved in other ways. Opponents seem to be more focused on the ease of collection and not in the goal of increasing recycling rates in New Jersey. Thank you. You're muted.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Diane.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Next up, we have Courtney Milley.
Hello, thank you. So thank you for your time today and for all of you for working to reduce single-use plastics and plastic waste in New Jersey. My name is Courtney Milley. I am the Plastics Campaign Associate at Oceana. We are the largest international advocacy organization dedicated solely to ocean conservation with 26,000 members and supporters in New Jersey. For 2 decades, Oceana has campaigned to win strategic, directed campaigns that achieve measurable outcomes to help make our oceans more biodiverse and abundant. An estimated 33 billion pounds of plastic enter the marine environment every year. This is roughly equivalent to dumping 2 garbage trucks of plastic into the oceans every minute. If plastic production were a country, it would be the 5th largest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. Plastic pollution is a threat to our oceans, as well as the air we breathe, the food we eat, and the health of our bodies and communities. As you are all well aware, New Jersey is a leading state in plastic pollution reduction, with a single-use bag ban, a strong expanded polystyrene foodware ban, and directives for research and reduction of microplastics in water. New Jersey should continue this progress by implementing a bottle redemption program with ambitious bottle reuse and refill targets. Analysis of strong bottle redemption programs are shown to create green jobs and support local businesses, in addition to protecting the environment. The results are continuously clear. States with bottle bills have less litter, have more bottles and cans returned for recycling. This is an opportunity to start a program that also ensures bottles are reused and refilled. An Oceana report released last year found that increasing refillable bottles by just 10% in the United States would eliminate the use of 134 billion single-use plastic bottles and prevent 1 billion of those bottles from entering oceans and other waterways. If New Jersey were to institute a 25% refill requirement by the end of a 5-year period and 50% by the end of a 15-year period, it will make a huge impact on those billions of bottles across the United States. A bottle redemption program with refill targets also reduces greenhouse gas emissions associated with extraction, production, and use of single-use plastic. As reported in Oceana's refill report, Coca-Cola emissions report shows that refillable glass bottles have a 10.2% lower emission than single-use polyethylene bottles, and a refillable polyethylene bottle is up to 47% lower compared to single-use polyethylene bottles. Coca-Cola can report on these emission savings because they have robust refill systems in other countries. You may have experienced buying beer from a small brewery in a refillable growler, or milk in a glass jug that you can return to the store or the farm. Refillable systems are not new, but can be expanded with a strong bottle redemption program with required refill targets. As the most densely populated state, New Jersey can make a big impact on protecting the environment and communities by developing a bottle redemption program with strong targets for refillable bottles. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. Next up, we have Brian Russo.
Hi, my name is Brian Russo. I'm a member of Climate Reality Project, Sierra Club, Food and Water Watch, and also a member of the North Haledon Green Team. It was
we appear to have lost him. So if you want to move on,
Okay,
we'll get him when
Ellie.
he comes back in.
Okay. Ellie Gruber. Ellie, you're on mute.
Maybe move on to Nick.
I'm sorry, I had the wrong button.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Ellie.
It was upstairs instead of downstairs. I want to thank you very much, and I'm really impressed. Beth, you did a fantastic job moderating, and everyone was wonderful. I learned a lot. I'm Ellie Gruber. I'm actually co-chair of the League of Women Voters of New Jersey Natural Resource Committee, and it was just a short 38 years ago that we were part of what was called the Can and Bottle Bill Coalition with Sierra Club, New Jersey PIRG, and a couple of other groups. Now I can't find the old stationery. I'm a born and raised Mainer, and I go back every summer to see the success of the bottle bill there. The proof is in the pudding. The states that have the bottle bill do recycle, but recycling itself is not effective these days. We cannot recycle dirty plastic containers. We cannot recycle damaged containers. When you have deposit legislation, you return a container that can be recycled. They are successful programs. I agree with the mayor, with the councilman from Bradley Beach. He has experience. He has a tourist town. He wants the best for his town. We have litter. We have litter all over the place. 38 years ago, we had 3/4 of the towns of New Jersey wanted this. It almost passed, but mandatory recycling and the litter tax were put in its stead. And sure, we all want recycling, but it's not the same as it was years ago. We don't have the same markets. We don't have the same products. We don't have sustainable containers anymore that they claim can be recycled. People are throwing things in recycling that don't belong there. You know it. Anyway, I'm really just saying we need deposit legislation. I'm a little disturbed that the DEP seems to be against this, and I really don't understand why, because I think that they should be a little more open to the discussion. It's not just the environmental groups that want it. It's residents that want it, that are environmentalists and non-environmentalists. So I urge you to reconsider the fact that the supermarkets, that the people with the litter control, they don't want it. There's a reason. People want it. Most people do want it. It is not a business decision only. It's an environmental decision. And I think the young lady from the environmental justice community spoke really well. It helps them. It really does help them. Anyway, thank you very much. And this was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ellie. Next up, we have Nick DePalma.
Yes, hi. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nick DePalma, and I work for the New Jersey Gasoline Convenience Automotive Association. We're a small business trade association that represents a number of businesses throughout the state. I'm just chiming in for what it's worth to say that while we don't have legislation in hand, the general outline of what is proposed would probably burden our small business members. We've heard from government agencies, and we've heard from municipalities and others. I also know we heard from the small business community, but I don't know if we heard from, I'm sorry, from the larger business community, but I don't know if we've heard from anyone in the small business community. On that point, I would like to just touch on a few things. Most of our members are mom and pop organizations. They're mom and pop businesses that have been in the family for years, and they're quite small. They're not far-flung entities that have deep resources and candidly space for implementing what is likely to be part of any proposed legislation. In that way, our members are certainly small footprint establishments that have concerns. Most of those are not just the price in implementing it and the costs that may be passed on to the consumer, but also in the actual implementation of the redemption process. Like any small business out there, there's always staffing issues. There are certainly issues with regard to sanitation and otherwise. Our members have small footprints that, in order to hold on to these bottles and store them, it's much different than it would be for a restaurant or a supermarket or otherwise. Our convenience store members, the small spaces that they have in serving their customers, everything is based on the quickness of how quickly somebody can get in and out of a location. They park their cars, they run in for a gallon of milk or whatever the case may be, and they want to be in and out in 3 minutes. If we were to have an issue or there was a mandate rather to collect bottles, it would arguably slow down that process considerably. The other thing is that during the call, during the meeting, we obviously heard from a number of folks who have talked about how businesses can absorb these costs. They didn't go out of business. They got implemented in other areas. They obviously could lobby to do these things. That's not necessarily true of our members. We're a nonprofit trade association. There's got to be other folks who are similarly situated from where we are, that just because our interests may align with other business entities, it doesn't mean that the impact will be evenly felt. And by that, what I'm saying is...
Thank you, Nick.
Okay,
sorry, your time's up. Thank you. Next up, we have Christopher Finch.
Hi, I'm Chris Finch. I'm the recycling coordinator for the city of Mobile in Cumberland County. Let me start with the list of studies, the 33 studies. Out of those, 9 that I counted were in the US. 2 of them, it's unclear where they were done. The rest of them are all outside of the United States. Also, in smaller areas that are more financially strapped, people are poorer, a bottle bill would increase costs for those residents largely. There are some places where people would have trouble meeting the additional cost of paying deposits for cases of water and other things that they already have trouble buying as it is. It would also hurt the smaller MRFs and recycling centers because they rely on the funding for the items that they sell to the different commodities, which would cause some of them to close and increase the cost of recycling services for the municipalities in those areas, because they would have to pay to have the stuff driven further away to another recycling center, the stuff that would not be covered under the redemption program, which would be most of the items that are currently recycled curbside. EPR legislation and truth in labeling legislation, in conjunction with the laws that we already have, would do a lot more to improve our contamination rates, people educating the public so that we have less things that are in there that aren't supposed to be. I think that is definitely the way to go versus a bottle redemption program. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have Michael Smaha.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon. My name is Mike Smaha, Vice President of Government Relations for the Can Manufacturers Institute. We are the U.S. Trade Association that represent metal can manufacturers and suppliers. So our folks are making aluminum beverage cans, food cans, other kinds of cans. We actually used to oppose these programs for a very long time, but about 5 years ago, we had a real sort of come to Jesus realization that our customers have sustainability goals. They've got recycled content goals that are really important to them and to their customers and shareholders. And the only way that we as aluminum beverage can manufacturers are going to be able to help them meet those goals is to increase the recycling rates of aluminum beverage cans. Through a lot of internal assessments, we just rediscovered the fact that that these kinds of programs are tried and true, and they really are the only way that we're going to move the needle on increasing the amount of recycled aluminum beverage cans in the country. For us, this is about a pro-manufacturing, smart domestic policy approach here. Way too many materials that consumers are using end up either in landfills or as litter, where they're completely lost. And it only makes sense that we as a country, from an industrial policy perspective, capture this material and reuse it. It's good for the environment, and it's good for U.S. manufacturing competitiveness against other countries, China, Russia, you name it. I do spend a lot of time talking with the traditional opposition to these kinds of programs, and I think a lot of folks are still stuck in a mindset where they're thinking these programs are the 1970s or 80s kinds of programs, when the fact is we need a whole 21st century approach to how we're going to set these things up. There's no reason that retailers have to take this material inside the store. You can give them options that consumers can return things outside, or in a close proximity to retail stores. For the MRF operators that are concerned about losing the valuable material, there could be an opportunity that if they are willing to turn over the material, the bottles and cans, over to the producer responsibility organization, that they could get some sort of percentage of the refund value for every bottle and can. I definitely think that there are new approaches here that we should look at, and ultimately, I also don't think we have to have a separate EPR for packaging and a separate DRS system for beverage containers. I do think that they both complement one another. And New Jersey should actually think about an approach where you could have an EPR program and a separate DRS program for beverage containers as a policy option to consider. So I just want to say thank you. We appreciate you guys letting industry and manufacturers have a voice at the table.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have Scott DeFeef. Scott?
Hi, thank you. I'm Scott DeFeef. I'm the president of the Glass Packaging Institute. I was on earlier today, but had to leave for other reasons. I'm coming back. I came back at the right time to support most everything that my friend and colleague Mike Smaha just said from the Can Manufacturers Institute. I know that most of this discussion was in and around plastics, but cans and glass bottles are the other two primary materials that are in most beverage deposit container programs. I support everything that Mike said with regard to not having a 1970s view of a bottle bill system, but a 21st century view, learning from, programs that had been created many years ago, and to the best practices to having a much more efficient system. We actually also agree wholeheartedly that these are completely complementary with EPR. And I'll go one step further and suggest that there is plenty of data and studies have shown that the most effective and highest recovery rates for beverage containers, especially glass, are going to come from a combination of EPR and deposit return on top of that. There is 75% of glass containers are going to be a beverage or one sort or another. And we know that our friends in the fiber and cardboard industry don't love to see the glass mixed into their stream. Every one material's contamination is another material's primary. And so just like the glass doesn't want to, the cardboard folks don't want to see us in their stream, we don't want to see the paper in our stream. That's our contamination, and small plastics is in our contamination. And so we think that these programs can work effectively together. And in fact, for the local government officials, if EPR is in place and deposit return is considered as a part of EPR, the entire argument about making communities whole for the revenue loss that may or may not come from having the material collected in one stream or another stream is rendered completely moot, because the EPR program is going to make the communities whole and the MERS whole for the services that they provide. The different materials under EPR, the commodity materials under EPR are going to be managed by the PRO and the organizations that are running the EPR and or the deposit return system that function under the state. There were a couple issues earlier in the day that I felt misrepresented the glass recycling levels, and I just wanted to clarify a couple things. States with bottle deposit are at least twice, if not 3 or 4 times more glass recovery and recycling than non-bottle bill states. Single stream just simply cannot produce quality glass that can be cleaned to the specifications of when it needs to go back into furnaces
Thank you, Scott.
At as high a rate as bottle deposit can.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Brian Costantino.
Yeah, my name is Brian Costantino with the Camden County Division of Environmental Affairs. I am the recycling coordinator, and I just want to reiterate the narrow scope of this legislation. As stated earlier, it only represents 13% of our overall recycling stream. So the concerning part is this legislation has the potential to upend the robust infrastructure that we've built over the last 39 years for 13%. Citing national statistics or studies to support this legislation in New Jersey provides a false choice, especially when asserting bottles would otherwise go into landfills or incinerators. To me, this legislation is a classic example of trying to fix something that is not broken. Obviously, improvements can be made, but to create a dueling system with the potential to financially cripple existing infrastructure just for the purpose of targeting a small portion of the overall recycling stream seems illogical. Municipalities are required to provide separate collections to recycle mandated materials. Bottle bill legislation will only seek to remove the high-value materials that help support these collection systems. If a bottle bill is enacted, these systems will still be required. So the idea that municipalities will save money is difficult to comprehend. Recycling trucks still need to run and drivers still need to collect. The only change we'll see is an increase in processing fees, depletion in grant funds, and most importantly, a less convenient system. I conducted recycling enforcement for many years, and I can tell you without a doubt, recycling among most individuals is successful when programs are convenient. A bottle bill is certainly less convenient than the system we already have. And through extensive recycling education over many years, we have been successful at averaging a 10% residue rate for our municipal recycling. I know this firsthand because I participate in mandatory audits every 6 months. And I can tell you a significant portion of this residue is not the plastic that we see identified in most bottle bills. The plastics at the MRFs, they are getting recycled. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak?
Somebody's hand is up. Oh, it was Brian.
That was
Sorry.
Brian.
It doesn't look like if anybody, yeah, there's no other hands, Diane.
So we could take a break and wait a few minutes and come back, or we could see if anybody wanted to add to their comments to allow time for people, because we did say the time would be open for that spread. I don't know if we have to go all the way to 5, but it might be a consideration to extend the time a little bit longer by inviting.
Sure. So Brian Thompson has raised his hand.
Hey, Brian.
I was just, I had several other points I wanted to make, just a couple more. I was very disappointed to hear that the casinos are not participating. I don't understand why that is. If you monetize those bottles, I'm sure they'd be the first ones to try to cash that in a jackpot. And I think that, to say that we recycle 57% of our plastic bottles, which again, does that mean we're collecting 57% or just we're recycling 57%? The numbers are very confusing here, and I think we really need to have a better handle. But nonetheless, according to the industry, the use of plastic bottles is going to grow 6% a year. And that may be good for the recyclers, but is it good for us? Because if we're only getting a little over half of that, where's the other half going? I spent an hour on the beach talking about anecdotes a few weeks ago in my hometown of Monmouth Beach, and I picked up like 11 plastic bottles in half an hour. I just decided to do it, and then I videoed it and tweeted it out. But that's, a lot of good points have been made here. The only other thing I wanted to put on the plate, because we're dealing with plastic bottles, is the plastic cap problem. And I would plead with the PAC to, while obviously I think we should have a bottle bill in a good markup, we need to have a mandatory law for tethered caps to bottles. They are just polluting everywhere. You almost trip over the doggone things. So that's the end of my comments, but tethered caps would be a wonderful step forward as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. Is there anybody else who ran out of time who would like to add to their comments?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yay.
Amazing. I would say, should we put like a note and say we're done, but we'll check in at 4:15 or something? I don't know.
More people have now raised their hands. Well,
Okay.
Brian raised his hand. I think Brian's
Ben.
hand is just a relic.
Okay.
Yes,
And I'm
but
gonna put it
Mark,
down. And then Mark
would like to add
Savastano
to
has
his-
re-raised his hand.
Never mind.
Okay, is that my cue?
yes, Mark, you are up.
Okay, thank you. There was a point made that I'm hoping if somebody's still on the call that can clarify regarding only 20%, it was Megan Down, a matter of fact, only 20% of multi-unit residents in New Jersey have access to recycling. I'd love to confirm that statistic and also build upon the point that the last gentleman just made with regard to industry, businesses, restaurants, etc., being part of this process to begin recycling, because without their participation, putting the onus strictly on single-family residences is just a ridiculous solution to our problem. With I've seen quotes of 350 million tons of plastic being produced annually, and that's a small portion of what they're expecting to occur in the future. There's no way that all of this discussion that we're having is going to solve the problem. Whether it's using a recycling bill with bottle collection or continuing the curbside collection alone. I believe it would be a great thing to have both options on the table, consider how to have them work together. But a greater part of the problem is including larger producers of trash to be part of this solution. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mark.
Hey, Diane, if I could reply, just because the first question that Mark asked, I don't know what the woman from the ABA, the Beverage Association, said, but it doesn't seem right if that only 20% of New Jersey residents have access to curbside recycling. I'm sure that's not the case, because that 1987 law mandated it. And for really rural parts of New Jersey where the town is not coming to get it, I believe, and maybe somebody knows from the DEP knows better, but I believe that if you're paying for private trash hauling, that hauler is still required to to also pick up recyclables in residential areas. So maybe somebody from the DEP knows that, but so I'm not exactly sure what the woman from the ABA said, but I don't think she meant to say that only 20% of New Jersey have access to curbside recycling.
She mentioned multifamily residences.
Okay, maybe that's it. And then I will say, it doesn't seem like most, businesses in New Jersey actually adhere to this. It doesn't seem like it's very well enforced. There's businesses all over the place that don't seem to pay attention to recycling at all. And I would just ask, anytime you see a lonely garbage can in any public place, like just a garbage can with no recycling can near it, just realize that is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of perfectly recyclable beverage bottles every year, every month or whatever, that are just going in the garbage and not getting recycled.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Mark. Scott, you have your hand back up.
Yes, thank you. I'm not going to speak for Megan Dahm from the Beverage Association, but I think I'm familiar with the report that she was referring to. That's a Recycling Partnership Access Report, and it is about multifamily. We know across the country, I'm not going to speak to the New Jersey specific number that she cited, but across the country, multifamily access is usually 1/3 of residential access at best. Colorado, I do sit on the Colorado State EPR Advisory Board, and we just finished our needs assessment leading into the recommendations for EPR in Colorado, and that stood true in Colorado as well, that multifamily residential, often zoned in some states as commercial or kind of in that in between. It's not residential, it's not commercial industrial, but it's in that in between category, can often be missed due to service requirements and other regulatory laws there. In addition, the question on businesses, the hospitality industry, the commercial sector, often not covered under residential recycling. There's a lot of consumer packaging there, and a fair amount of glass. So thank you.
Thank you, Scott. I don't see any other hands up. Is there, oh, Judith?
Everyone almost escaped. I just want to make one point. I'm hearing the MRF operators in the counties not wanting to lose revenue. I want to have a longer conversation with them about savings. Less trucks going around, less processing, less money spent on litter collection. But maybe we can find something that we all agree on. I was so interested in hearing the representative from Oceana talk about the tremendous benefits of refillable containers. You know, it's not rocket science. It's basically designing your container so that it is thick enough. Remember this, it can go around multiple times. You just need a commercial bottle washing operation, lots of interest in refillable containers. But the only way that refillable containers will get returned is with a deposit on it. And I'm just interested in future conversations on how we very aggressively promote reusable, refillable containers, whether the local governments are going to be dissatisfied with that because it'll take some glass maybe out of circulation, which they don't seem as concerned about losing the glass. And also, I was disappointed that Coke didn't testify today because they made a very big deal last year announcing their support for 25% refillable containers by 2030. And it would have been good to delve into that a little bit with them. And thankfully, Coke is on this advisory committee, so maybe we could have this as a future discussion. But I don't know how you get refillables without a mandatory refundable deposit.
Thanks, Judith. And we have another hand up, Michael Knoll.
Hi there, everybody. Can you hear me okay? My computer's a little slow. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it says my, of course, team says we couldn't turn on your camera. Yeah, sure. I just wanted to chime in. My name is Mike Noel. I'm a public affairs director for TOMRA. We provide a range of technology and services for EPR for beverage containers or bottle systems throughout the US and the world, as well as EPR for packaging programs. And I wanted to respond to a couple comments that came up today. One, someone had mentioned, you know, what happens if you go to a store and you paid a deposit, but the reverse vending machine is full or says it requires maintenance. In that case, most states do require in their regulation that the retailer provide some other form of immediate deposit repayment. So it's not like the consumer is out their money. They are entitled to their money. It's a consumer's right. They would need to go inside and present it to the retailer. And that's important. That's not a common way for people to redeem, but it is important because it is an incentive for the retailer to make sure their RVMs are maintained and are emptied because they don't want to take containers over the counter either. That takes additional resources for them. So that's typically how that's handled. There's a comment about people with disabilities who could be impacted, and I can comment at least how that can work within a deposit program. I don't want to take away from the great work from the organization who spoke in New Jersey, but it's quite common in deposit programs for people with disabilities to be hired by redemption centers. It's a fairly simple job and one that provides gainful employment for people with disabilities to sort containers, to deal with employees, and it's certainly a job creator for that segment of the population. And then finally, I'm actually surprised we've got through 5 hours of bottle bills and nobody mentioned the potential for charity fundraisers or bottle drives as they're known. Boys, you go into any bottle bill state, you will find almost every high school marching band, Boy Scout troop, Girl Scout troop does fundraisers off of collecting bottles and cans, be it 5 cents or 10 cents. There was a marching band in New York this year that collected $19,000 purely off of bottles and cans. And that's with a 5-cent deposit. So it would have been close to 40 grand if it was a 10-cent deposit. Beyond that, I don't have prepared remarks. I just want to, offer Tomras as a resource here. We operate in every major container deposit system around the world and can speak to some of the principles of what those high performing programs that reach 90% redemption rates and higher can deliver and how they operate.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure, thank you.
Do we have anybody else? Oh, we do. Mary Ellen.
Hi, everyone again. This is really just for the rest of my fellow council members, and maybe Christina and Beth, and great job, by the way. Really great job with everyone moderating and everything. Could we just remind the folks, or I'm not sure how you want to do it, if you're going to send out the slides or whatnot, but I think there was an email address where people could also send comments. I know a number of my colleagues wanted to participate today, but they couldn't. In some cases, they thought they were going to be able to, but they were ultimately not able to because this conflicted with the State Chamber of Commerce Summit. Actually, the Chamber of Commerce wanted me to wanted to be here today. They don't love this idea of a bottle bill, but I do know a number of people who were planning to be here today and were not able to. So just that, reminding people about that email address and whatnot.
I will put that right now. That's a great point, Mary Ellen. Thank you. I'm going to put the general single-use plastics email in the chat right now, and that's sort of our catch-all for the Get Past Plastics campaign related to eliminating single-use plastic bags and straws. So people can send their comments there, and I'm about to hit send on that. Also, multiple times today, I have put in the chat that this meeting, is being recorded, and the recording will be posted at the same location that you registered for this meeting. And it'll take me probably a week or so by the time I get it edited, and, just to like clip out the unimportant things like this right now, and post it there so it's cohesive and makes sense. So if everybody could hang in, the meeting will be posted, and we'll have transcripts as well. Any other questions, Mary Ellen? Anything else I could clean up?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Thank you, Christina. Next, we have Nandini.
Hi, thank you so much. Thanks for organizing all this. I actually had a question for Michael Knoll. Michael, you mentioned that you work for Tomra, and I know Tomra runs operations in with Mazda Recycling. They use your systems. And then we heard that MRFs would lose. It would be a financial hit for MRFs if we had a deposit return system. So can you talk a little bit from the MRF standpoint and how, I don't know if you can, but if you could talk a little bit about that, because the Tomra systems are used in MRFs as well in New Jersey.
Is it okay if I respond for the PAC? Is that all right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Sure. So yes, just to be clear, Tomra it provides advanced optical sorting technology to different kinds of sorting facilities, including MRFs. I'm sure there's some MRFs on the call that can answer this question more directly from their experience, but it's similar to what we've heard earlier today. MRFs do handle some valuable commodities, including PET plastic bottles and aluminum containers, and they can be a substantial portion of the MRF's revenue stream. So if that is the entity's business line, then they will be concerned about that material revenue loss. Another factor here is the other revenue streams that they may make money off of. But we can, as a business, we can understand that concern, and certainly we would be open to. There have been other deposit systems that have provided some sort of transitionary funding or permanent funding to MRFs for this material revenue loss, or looking at it a different way, simply compensating MRFs for the deposit beverage containers that they do handle. Calgary, Canada, for example, actually allows MRFs to take the deposit containers off the line and redeem them. California does a different route by weight, and is nothing I would recommend because it is more prone to fraud. Australia does another approach to allow their MRFs to collect the containers. But by and large, there's a larger point here that there are, I believe, as someone referenced, something like 30-something studies that when evaluating the impact on a municipality, those studies take into account this material revenue loss we're talking about. But then they balance that against projected savings on collection, recycling collection, on waste tipping fees, and litter abatement costs. Now, for New Jersey, yes, any similar study would need to take into account the Clean Communities litter tax and the recycling assessment tax. So that's an additional factor to make sure that municipalities and clean communities are indeed whole. But those are kind of some of the factors I see playing out in New Jersey.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Nandini. Thank you, Mike. Do we have anybody else who would like to speak?
Maybe, let's see, do we want to, where's Janine and Gary, do we want to maybe wrap up, or do we, or put a pause out, like Janine, you had suggested a slide up and come back in a few minutes. I could do the closing remarks and then see if anybody, or kind of wrap it up now.
I mean, my opinion, Cindy, would be to wrap it up only because all the folks that were on the call are starting to leave. So I think folks wanted to say something would have already said something, and we did give some extra time. And if you want to give a few more minutes, of course, not to cut it off. It's just that I don't know that we're going to get anything more. We're not getting any new people added. It doesn't appear by looking at the counts.
Great.
Somebody just raised their hand.
Okay, they'll be the last speaker then, maybe, and then we can do the closing remarks, and it's been fabulous. Thank you all.
Hey, Kathleen.
Yeah, hi, my name is Kathleen Horahan. I used to be the recycling coordinator for Morris County. I'm retired now. And I work with my environmental commission in my town. Also, I live in Morris Township in Morris County. And I'm just curious about the refillable bottle idea, because is it happening anywhere in the country? I'm just curious if this is a new idea, or is there an example to go by? So I'd just like to hear more about that.
It's an old idea. Hi, it's Judith Hank with Beyond Plastics. It wasn't long ago that most of our milk and soda and beer containers were in refillable bottles. To get it back, you basically just need a commercial bottle washing operation and a deposit on the container. It is quite common around the world. And very slow going in the United States. Some dairies offer refillable containers, and small microbrew companies where you bring it back, you pay a pretty steep deposit and you bring it back. But it's the top rung of the hierarchy. Instead of recycling, it's reduction, refill, reuse. And it does require companies that sell the product to take it back. Right now in New Jersey, there is no such requirement. And New Jersey is, it's a densely populated state. You don't have a whole lot of extra landfill capacity, and the garbage incinerators are not good neighbors. So this is a good opportunity to reduce what's going to incinerators and landfills. And it's not like we need some space age breakthrough technology. It's getting the bottles back and using a commercial bottle washing operation. Oceana has a really good report, and there's also really good information on refillables on the webpage called Upstream Solutions, and also Reloop and Container Recycling Institute.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, Judith. John, I see your hand is back up.
Yeah, I just wanted to reply, answer that question. Just personal anecdote. I buy milk. I have 2 kids. I buy milk in a returnable, refillable bottle every week. It's not inconvenient at all because I'm going back to the same store to buy more milk. I know I'm different and we pay extra for it, but that's just the way I live my life. But you go to another country, and country like Germany, I spent a couple weeks there recently, and every single beer, every single soda, every single like mineral water, every kind of water, it all came in refillable glass bottles. They just decided 30 years ago, like, hey, this is a way to reduce waste. We'll just turn it into a refill and reuse economy instead of a single-use economy, and working pretty well. Be great if New Jersey was like that in 30 years, and the sides of our highways would be a lot cleaner.
Thank you, John. We've got hands up again. So let's see who's next. I think Rachel. Rachel.
Hi, yes. So I'm just struggling to understand. We were talking about a bottle bill redemption program where we bring bottles to a bottle deposit area, but now we're into refillables. When I think of a refillable, I purchased the container, I now own the container. Such as craft breweries were brought up. When you purchase a growler, you now own that growler. They don't take it back. You go, you get it refilled at the brewery, and then you bring it back. So I'm not sure. There's another refillable retailer that just opened up in Medford, New Jersey. They offer refillable shampoo, dish detergent, all types of household needs. But again, you own the container. You're not bringing it and then getting a bottle back. That container is now yours. And it's not going through a bottle redemption program or anything like that. So I just don't know how the two are all of a sudden connected with what we're talking about.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Cindy, I'm sorry, did you
want
to?
No, I think this is a fascinating conversation, and it's sort of going a little bit beyond what we had talked about or thought about for the public portion of the meeting. I'm not sure if we want to just sort of wrap this up and then maybe have another discussion on refill to see how we can look more into those specific issues and have folks that are a wide-ranging discussion on options and opportunities there. But because it seems to be we're going around on conversations now instead of providing public input. So I don't know what our committee, our coordinating committee wants to weigh in on that. We can keep going, but I just wanted to flag that.
No, I think we should stick with bottle redemption issues and let everybody get on with their day, actually. I mean, a lot of connections are made here, maybe some emails or something, reach out to each other on the side, so.
Okay. Okay. So with that, I'll just do closing remarks then. Is that? Unless. Yes. Okay. So, well, it was a wonderful public forum, and it did trigger a whole lot of conversation about other ways of addressing waste, which is a good thing. I want to thank everyone so much for joining the call. I want to especially thank the panelists, the attendees, the public, and commenters, which provided such thoughtful, insightful contributions, especially, this last conversation. I want to thank also Beth Ravitt, of course. Cheers for you for doing such a fabulous job moderating, incredible 6 hours of moderating. It's incredible, even for a college professor. That's a long day. Did a great job. And the New Jersey DEP team, of course, with your support systems. And Janine, you know, pats on the back to your team. They've been great the whole time. Especially want to salute the panel, the PAC members, many of whom were on the different committees today. You've met a lot of them. And as Janine said, I think we've made a lot of new connections with people that are going to be very, very helpful in their in addressing these issues. And we heard a lot about the pros and the cons. I just want to end up maybe with focusing on some areas of general agreement that I heard, and that was to improve recycling, especially through waste reduction. We were just talking about refill and reuse. Of course, there are increasing educational opportunities and education options and education pathways to get folks more aware of different options. We also heard, I think, a consensus on increasing enforcement options and enforcement opportunities. Very much consensus on improving our metrics and getting data so that we can have the information that we need and have agreement on that information. And I think we can all agree that there was a real sense of Jersey pride here, as we have been leading some of the way on waste reduction and want to continue doing so. So the Plastic Advisory Council is wrapping up our second year report, and some of this information will be very helpful in doing so, but also there were a number of ideas and options that will be considered for our third year work ahead and identifying those priorities. So we did share with you how to provide some additional thoughts that you want to through the email, but I just wanted to thank everyone for really a very informative and incredible day. I thought it would go slow, but it went incredibly fast, I felt, with all of the great information. And thank you all so very much.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody on my team, and also for Gary and Beth and Cindy for your leadership. But everybody was great, and all the participants too. Thank you so much. I mean, we had Diane because she's really tough. She's a really good facilitator, but everybody was so well behaved. We could have had somebody.
The real action was in the chat, Janine.
Yeah.
Well, that will all be captured and will be helpful to sort through. Some gems in there for sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, buddy.